Summon Aeterna released into 1.0. The devs were calling this game the ultimate roguelike game, which, I mean, hey, those are strong words and I'm behind it. So I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. There's just no way that this game is going to be as good as the devs make it out to be. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead, re-download the game for 1.0 and get my own impressions of it. Now, I respect everything that went into this game, but getting back into it, the game is still the most outrageous, unhinged game I have played in the roguelike genre in a while. So let me start from the top. So Summon Aeterna is an action roguelite similar to a Rogue Legacy 2 or a Dead Cells. You play as the King of Darkness and you go through map by map, defeating bosses in order to conquer world seeds. If you look at some of the trailers for Summon Aeterna, it looks pretty good. And on paper, everything in that description hits every target for me. But for those who haven't seen this game, I just have to share some of the stuff that's in here. First off, we gotta talk about the art style. Now, I'm not here to dog on the game or anything, and I really hope it doesn't sound like I'm going to. So far, I have 10 hours in this game, and plan to do more after this. The environmental details are actually really good. Every statue you see, every stained glass portrait, all of that stuff, very, very cool. Once we get into the things that can actually move, it gets a little bit different, I would say. Basic monsters, I mean, come on, they're basic monsters. We have a walking eyeball, you have your Yeti or abominable snowman, whatever you like to call them. Your classic floating Norse skull. These tentacle things. This looks like, oh my god, what's the name of that game? Oh my god, it's struggling. I forgot all about this game. My god, this one was hilarious. So yeah, some enemies look better than others. The main character himself, the King of Darkness, is like pretty cool in general. He has this weird like stop animation, like oop, oop, which way we going? I don't know why, it just cracks me up every time he does it. I mean, everything in the background actually looks really good, so kudos for them for that. Getting into the combat, the game is basically like a Rogue Legacy 2. You go through one biome, which has a bunch of different rooms that are all connected, in which your goal is really to kill as many monsters as possible before you move on. When you first start off the game, you have a sword. And don't get me wrong, the sword works, but when you start swinging with it, I mean, come on. I'm like using a fly swatter over here. I don't know what to think about it. I'm trying to think back to Hollow Knight. In Hollow Knight, all you have is your slash, your down swipe, and your up swipe. So maybe for the sword gameplay, it was made to be similar to that. But I want you all to look at the difference between Hollow Knight sword spam and Summon Aeterna sword spam. And you tell me, what do you think the difference is? You'll only have access to really two things you can do on sword. One of them is fly swatter, and the other one is throwing the sword out and then either calling it back or teleporting to it. I can tell you that I rarely use this, and that's because, you know, as of right now, there's nothing better than fly swatter. Eventually, you get other weapons. There's a scythe that applies a dot to the enemy, and then when you press Y, it detonates the dot. Very, very rarely does this kill the monster for me. I'm gonna assume that's a skill issue. There's also the gun, and to be fair, the gun is actually a little entertaining. You fire bullets that you do have to reload, and if you fire enough, you get this alternate fire that does different effects based off the weapon that you have. The actual gun gameplay, though, is sometimes so awkward to look at. The king can't pan upward, he can't aim downward, but the game will certainly do it for you. And you'll end up with these really weird shots, like you're playing Wanted, where the bullet just shoots at this unnatural angle. And maybe I am nitpicking a little bit, I apologize. But for some reason, this thing just sends me whenever I actually use it. Furthermore, if a monster is directly in front of you, the king will actually shoot past it and you will miss your target entirely. I will say though, some of my best runs so far have been with gun. So while it looks really weird, it does actually work. But as I said, for the longest time, this is all you have available to you. Many other roguelikes out there incorporate a skill of some kind that you can equip and use it to supplement your combat throughout the game. You do eventually get something similar to that, I, for one, did not get it until 10 hours into the game. Oop. The individual monsters that you fight aren't really all that bad. Just like any other roguelite, there are plenty of bosses to fight. And trust me, they are just as ridiculous as everything else I explained earlier. First off, we have Dantalus, a colossal giant that fires laser beams and also admits to breaking down the wall of the town that you start in. We have Umehara, who is doing a very classic stance with a classic tattoo. After the dialogue, it does this unique versus scene that, trust me, does not exist in any other boss fight. He's got Tatsumaki, Hadouken, there's a Shoryuken. This guy's got it all. And of course, with Fly Swatter, the sounds he makes when you attack him just crack me up. We have our Norse goddesses. Their movesets are whatever. I don't care about that. The thing that gets me, though, is the dialogue. You can see that each one of them is a palette swap of the other one. It's gotta be done on purpose at this point, because that is just too funny to me. I've done these kind of fights in roguelikes all the time, so I never have any issue with these. Each one of them charges up and does a special attack, but I swear to you, the red version does not actually do anything with her charge. I don't know what it's supposed to do. And of course, we have Frieza, the Hand of Chaos. Please pause the video, zoom in, do whatever you need to. They can't be serious with this, right? For some reason, I am dying that this thing is part of the game. And it's real. This is not a mod. Look at these attacks. I know my DBZ fans know what this one is for sure. All right, there we go. Frieza's dead. Excuse me, Frigger is dead. There's no way. Come on. There is no way they're serious. At this point, I feel like the dev is messing with us. As a matter of fact, a lot of the dialogue in this game is actually pure comedy. The first time you find Death, he talks about leaving some kind of notebook that a human eventually finds and causes a massive amount of heart attacks. And when the king talks to the punching bag who resembles, well, I don't want to say, but maybe you can figure it out. He also mentions that this is a roguelike game, not an RPG. The king constantly berates this tarot NPC, eventually calling everything a pyramid scheme. We have Count Xander, your classic vampire boss, which I'm actually going to play out his spawn just for you with no editing, just to let you get a feel of it. And of course, there's more hilarious dialogue from the king that I probably haven't even seen yet. But you go into this with expectations of an intense and dark story, but I am laughing the entire time. To be fair though, once you get to the final boss, the devs actually throw at you a legitimate storyline that is actually pretty interesting. So I will say I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out. And I do want to say I'm not here to just dog on the game. I do have legitimate stuff in here that is good. For example, as a roguelike game, this isn't simply spawn into the same area, fight the same enemies, increase the difficulty by 1 until you reach a cap. Summon Aeterna has one of the most interesting world creation tools that I have seen in one of these, and that is from their world germination and world seed fusion system. Every time you start off a run, you choose one of these seeds, and just like a seeded run in a roguelite, you generate the run based off of this. Each seed has a level, each seed has a rarity, and they all come with a bunch of genes that affect multiple aspects of the run. Some are simple, like enemy health up, enemy damage up, etc, etc. But the way how they modeled this almost reminds me of a Path of Exile mapping system. You can mutate the genes to try to get bonuses that weren't there before. You can influence the seeds to have things like Chaos Influence, King Influence, and other things that I haven't even seen yet. Seeds can have legacies. Seeds can have effects that you don't even know what they do. Eventually, there are just a metric ton of modifiers that you add to each individual seed, where your whole goal is to just make it as far as possible for a literal leaderboard that is in the game. If you don't care for the leaderboard, of course, the main goal of doing all of this is to collect currency. Yes, this is a roguelike game that has meta currency, and you will be pushing meta currency throughout your entirety of playing the game. It's sort of a weird game about grinding, but potentially in a good way, because you grind so that you can actually push content further and further out. As well as doing all the normal combat, you have lots of platforming sections that involve jumping over spikes, jump, jump, throw sword, teleport, dash. And I think these are actually kind of cool. Death appears to give you curses that you can cleanse for permanent buffs to your character. There are tarot cards that enhance the game randomly. And as far as I know, they appear at random. There are elite mini-boss fights that show up, also at random, which sort of bets your ability to kill them in order to enhance your character. And I'm sure various other things that I haven't even touched yet. I'm in this really weird spot, and that's I can't tell if the game is actually good or not. There's like this good content in the center surrounded by jank, and some of the jank is hilarious. I wouldn't even take it out if the devs asked me if they should. But in this case, as you peel back the weirdness, I think there's a legitimate game in here that I kind of want to see the upper limits of. I am on a mission, not really to prove it to you, but to prove it to myself if I actually enjoy playing this game. It has really interesting systems in it that I want to see fully fleshed out, and I think I'm willing to grit my teeth through the jank to get to that silver lining. If you have this game yourself, let me know in the comments how you think about it. I want you to tell me if the game is worth continuing. Once I find out the answer, I'll probably make a follow-up video and give you all an update if this game is a yay or if this game is a nay. If you want to see that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video so that it gets out and more people can give their opinions on if the game is good or not. Otherwise, wish me luck, and I will see you in hopefully not 100 hours of playing this game.